So how many of you guys are going to actually send up a feed with whatever mechanism you possibly can? We got Larynx, OBS, Wirecast, vMix, hardware encoders. 2? 3?
You can send how much ever you need.
This is like, I could convert this whole meeting to SRT and push it up if you want. Like, what do you want? Yeah, so basically what we've found out over the last few months is, during this transition, is we've started to use Zoom as our contribution method because it works really well. It's really fast, but there are some limitations as far as how good it can look. So what you're looking at now is like a 6 megabit stream, and it's because we have this fancy 1080p account, but not everybody has 1080p. With SRT, it's anybody can do this. It's not limited by anything. In fact, if you guys watched the video that the person put up in regards to gaming that I sent out in the email, he's using it to capture games where they're doing like calls, and so they're doing OBS to OBS. So it can be as simple as that. You can have a computer locally in your local network, and it's just an IP address that just says send video. This is the sender. This is the receiver. So it could just be OBS in its simplest terms. Just think of it that way. OBS to OBS, free, and fast. And you can get it down to 200 milliseconds, which, I mean, think of that, a fifth of a second. It's super quick. And that's amazing. If you can get on a network that's really fast, like there's little hops, let's say like from me to David Brady, I don't know if I was to do a trace route, see how many hops, probably like 5 or something like that. But some people I've heard will that do this really for the big leagues will get a line ran directly to them or provisioned where they can get really low latency. They call glass to glass. So it's like being there. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do is we're going to open up some software called SRT mini server. And I'm using this just to be able to show you guys easily, because one of the things that it does is it generates QR codes. So we did this in the AWS test when Tucker and the gang showed off how to build an AWS instance and bring in ingest some footage. So in its simplest terms, we're just going to, for those of you that have that app on your phone or your iPhone or Android device, it will give us a QR code, which is basically that same SRT address, but it's just a QR code. It's just like a web address. So when I put it up on the screen, you guys can scan it and you can immediately. So part of the joy of this is we're going to do this. You know, we're not just going to talk about it. It's not just going to be theoretical. We're actually going to open it up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit share screen and show you guys what this looks like. So just to kind of give you the high level overview, this is a machine running up in the cloud. This is an AWS G4DN 8X large, and it has a public IP address of this address, and that's the address that we'll be sending to. I'll put that in the chat here in a sec. And you can kind of see, if I scoot over my other screen and go into my back end, you can see that machine. Come on. So this is the AWS console. This is what it looks like in the back end. I have a couple instances that are running right now. This one that we're on is this one here. So you can see it's got a private IP address of this. It's got a public IP of this, and I'll put this in the chat for right now so you guys can see what that is. Any questions so far as to what we're doing, or no, not yet? Okay.
Guy, I have a question.
Says chat disabled.
I came in kind of late. So how do you get access to
come on time next time and you'll have the answer? No, just kidding. How do you get access to what?
The interface that you're using right now?
You won't. So this is a receiver up here. So you're going to be the sender. I'm receiving up here. So the gist is that this machine up in the cloud, this AWS machine, is going to show us what you send us. So the goal of this is to let you guys get a taste of SRT. So you're going to send it and we're going to catch it. So this app here called SRT mini server is one app. As we were talking before you joined, Tony, there, you could just do this with OBS. So if you watch the video that was sent out previously, OBS could be a receiver. So OBS is free and it can be a sender or a receiver. So I could just open it up on here. Other apps that can receive are vMix. So vMix could also catch the ball, so to speak. But the way that we're going to do this is with an app that's about $30 a month. So let me show you guys the website, just so you know it's not completely outrageous, and you can do this yourself. So there is a free trial. You can if you want to play with this after we're all done, you'll be able to see that you can go to this link and you can do it yourself. It does cost for 4 streams. If you do a buy now, you can do €30, which I think is like what, $28 or something. I think the euro's lower than the dollar right now. So but this says four lines edition. So depending on how many of you guys are going to push up, how many of you guys are going to push up a stream will determine. Actually, minimize. Man, it's kind of hard with this Zoom toolbar in the way. Sorry. Move this out of the way.
Now, are you using a Windows machine in the cloud, or are you using a Windows machine at your house?
Both.
Okay.
But this could be a Mac controlling the PC. It's kind of irrelevant, and I could just have an OBS on my Mac running as well. The reason why we're doing this is because I don't have the bandwidth for you guys to send me. Well, actually, I probably do. I probably could just do this not in the cloud, but then I'm giving you my IP address, and there's a lot of reasons to do this in the cloud.
Okay.
All right, so let me see. That's that. That's that. That's that. That's that machine. This is the problem with having too many machines. All of a sudden, you can't see where everything is. So the machine that we were on.
The solution for that is more screens.
Yeah. This. Come on. It's a nice way to get. So the problem is that I've got the scroll. This Windows. See, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of that screen, but that's the screen of my local machine. Come on, there it is. So now I'm going to get out of Chrome. Actually, here's one of the other reasons why we want to use the cloud is because you guys can all send me a feed, and here's the difference. I could take in 3,600 megabits of you. So I don't have that at my house. Does that make sense? Why you might want to use AWS? So again, if you just want to do this from like a football field to a use case might be a high school. They want to send the high school game up to the cloud or to another location, and then commentators can commentate, but the commentators could be offsite somewhere else. And so they call that REMI, remote. What does REMI stand for? Remote integration, I believe is. What is it? Remote ingestion. Yeah, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to remote ingest, but we're going to try to do it for as cheap as we can. Because one of the bigger bad boys that you can get is, man, this is hard to do without this top bar. Let me scroll back up to the Windows bar. Anyways, if you jump on Google, you can Google high vision encoders, and you can see that there's $10,000 encoders. But again, we're going to try to do this for cheap, and we're going to use this software. So here's what SRT mini server looks like. And right now I'm sending up a feed, and my feed is Wirecast. So this is what SRT mini server looks like, and this is what it looks like for the preview window. So this is when you guys start sending stuff up to this IP address that's in chat. It's actually more than just this IP address. We're going to be using port 5000. So the way that this works is SRT travels to the IP address, but then it travels on a port. One of the things that's unique about SRT mini server is you can just have one port and it'll just stack them. So as you guys go to port 5000, which is where we're going to go, you're going to start to populate across here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though it's the same port, it just stacks them in SRT mini server. And then the magic is that SRT mini server turns those into NDI or SDI. So think about that for a second. You can have a phone running Larix and you can shoot that SDI to somebody else into, you know, a total broadcast environment. Like David at CBS could just catch that. And so right now we're looking at the nice, let me see if I can, and this is really hard not having this top view. But
on that SRT server, you would need something to put it back on copper. So you'd need the right.
See this right here where it says SDI out. So this machine that I have doesn't have an SDI card in it, but if it did, you would see. Yeah, let me minimize this one. Yeah, see how it says here the SDI out? You could start it and it would be pushing it out. So my other machine down below, I'm not running SRT. Obviously, I'm not running copper, or I am running copper in the cloud. But I have a machine here with a deck link. I don't know if you can see my video, but I have a machine here with a deck link, and so I could take your Larix broadcaster feed and push it into an SDI environment here, which is pretty cool because you can say I want HD, SD, 4K. So we're gonna push this thing. Some of you might want to just be like, hey, will this thing do 4K? Let's try it. So this has started. I've turned on SRT mini server. So it looks like one person's already pushing in a feed. I'm gonna put up a QR code. So looks like a third one just popped in.
I have one quick question though. With the construct of the URL from something like Larix, is it just SRT : whack IP address :
yeah
number?
Yeah.
And 5,000, right? Okay.
Yeah. Let
You
me,
might also need a question mark mode equals caller, depending on what guys set up there.
Can you
Okay.
refresh what you have to send with? Is it only Larix, or can you send through NDI, or what other senders can you use?
So we're strictly, in this example, we're strictly sending SRT. That's what the Srt Lab today is. We're just going to send SRT, but we will, for anybody that wants to play, in fact, if we can get a raise of hands of anybody that wants to suck it back down in NDI, let me know, and I'll fire up Bridge as well. I already have it running. So does anybody want to do that where I'll give you those credentials as well? Because then you could build a super source. I might be jumping ahead of myself, but first, let's back up just a second. So for those that want to do Larix and want to just spit in or try this for the first time, maybe you've never done this. So this is the QR code. If you open up your phone and you scan this and you have the Larix app on your phone, it will ask you if you want to open this in Larix, and then you can say okay. And when you do, I should start to see here.
Put that back up.
So you guys are probably on pause screen share for a second while I go back to the QR code, which is here, which is not there, which is, okay, close, link generator, direct URL, safe to resume share. So this is the button right here that's called link generator. I press that, and now I can give you that QR code again. For those of you who have jumped ahead, and because we haven't gone into OBS yet, if you watch the video, this is why I sent the video in advance. So hopefully those of you that want to send understand the nature of the URL here. The URL is this up top. If you will, so two different ways we're going to send up. We're going to send up via Larix, which is the app. You scan the QR code and hit the little red record button, and that will actually begin transmission. And you can send up in all the way up to 4K. I don't know if it'll do 60. We'll check it here in a second. So that's that one. If you want to send up through OBS, how many of you want to walk through? We can walk through setting it up through OBS if anybody wants to do that.
Sure.
Sure.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
All right. So here's so far what we're seeing. We're seeing this is me on number 1. That's probably Jonas on 2.
Yeah.
There's Scott. I could see Scott holding his phone. Scott, snap your fingers. How fast is it for you?
I set the latency at 200 milliseconds. It seems about true to that.
Yeah, it's really fast. And it looks like we got, I'm not sure on 4. Who we got on 4?
It's me, Brandon.
Brandon. We got, is that Chris on 5?
I'm in on 8, but over cellular because firewall at the corporate office.
You can't even send out?
I don't know. It was timing out. Let me try toggling back on and see.
Okay.
Yeah,
So for Jesse, I believe it was, you wanted to jump over to OBS. I think that I have OBS on. Oh yeah, I do. So here is OBS, and this OBS is running on my local machine. I have set up a NDI source, which is a camera pointed out my window. And if you watch the video that I set out in advance, there's 2 ways to stream out of OBS. One is just, you say start streaming, and as long as your settings are correct, this is how you would do it for setting up to like YouTube. You would say stream, and you would pick, YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, wherever you want to go, Twitter. And that's how people normally stream. But, and you can stream SRT like this. You can just go custom, and you can just enter in, actually, would it just be, yeah, it would be no stream key. But this isn't the way we're going to do it, because this way doesn't give you very good latency. It'll add 2 more seconds. So if you do it the stream way, it'll add too much
what
time.
you're proposing to do is over the custom FFmpeg.
Yeah, so we're going to go
Because
output.
what's interesting in the latest OBS version, they changed a bunch of things for SRT. And if you go back to the stream one, you can actually specify the settings. So if you go to custom, you can use all the parameters that the SRT socket API supports. So if you say, for example, SRT : / IP address : port, mode equals caller, and latency equals 200, you can tune down the latencies. There's still a bit of added latency because they, depending on which OBS version you need, they gave it over as a pipe to that. But you should not have increased latency. That's just because it chooses a higher latency.
Gotcha.
And yeah, for the corporate LAN here, I'm not sure if it's outbound or inbound on your end, but trying to telnet on port 5000 and it's not even able to connect. So,
Oh, wow.
That's all right.
So if I say start streaming, I should pop in. Yeah, see, I just popped in on 3. So two different ways of doing this. Jonas, if we want to fine tune this, so you saw the parameters that we have under setting. Let me stop the stream for a sec. Oh, it'll pop up still. So we went into stream, and we just did the simple. Here's the SRT : // So again, this is the destination. We're sending out of OBS. We're receiving in AWS, and this is the IP address, and you can see the IP address there. And this is the format, kind of like HTTP, just like a regular web address, but it's SRT : // and then there's the IP address, and there's the port number. So port 5000. Some maybe block like David's blocked. Actually, to jump on another tangent for a second, SRT mini server does have a way around that. I don't want to do it right now, but there is a way around it, because I have to show that screen away with everybody's IP addresses. But basically, it allows you to do a dynamic where it can trend.
But Guy, right now, do you have SRT mini server set up as caller, listener, or rendezvous?
Hold on, let me pause the screen share so I could jump back over to the settings.
Because if it's set up as a listener, at that point, if David sets it up as a caller,
it's listener.
It's the same, because what you're mentioning is the proxy that they have that allows, if your server
Proxy
doesn't have a public IP, allows you to tunnel it out to that proxy.
Yeah.
But that's only inbound to you. That won't help David.
Oh, gotcha. I thought that there was.
I'm good at breaking stuff, so you know.
Man, I wish there was a way for me to hide these IP addresses so that this can be shown, because it's showing us everybody's data rate, the frames per second, and the data rate, and then if you're getting drops. But it does also show, let me see.
If you're doing it via the Zooms, you're pumping it in his camera. If you're screen sharing in Zoom, you could do like a region of interest kind of.
No, but this is showing that like all the boxes show all the, yeah.
Okay.
What we could set up for the next time, it's a little more difficult with how you do it, because normally we wouldn't accept multiple SRT feeds over the same port. That's a little of one of the weird things that SRT mini server does. If we go to different ports, we could use an SRT gateway server in between, which then would hide all the IPs.
Yeah, if we're going to if this one's successful, we'll do another one where so just to kind of back up a little bit there, we're using SRT mini server as our receiver. What Jonas just talked about was another thing called SRT gateway, which if we have time, or if it's another one, another day that we do this, I have the gateway fired up and we can do it that way. Or I do have a third way of doing this, which is I have a whole nother instance running. So this is a whole nother machine running vMix. And the reason why I wanted to do this lab for you guys is because I've done this in an SRT Facebook group where every once in a while I'll fire up this machine and I'll let people come into what we call a 9-up supersource. And so this is, if you guys know John Barker, this is his 9-up. This may look familiar to, let me see when it gets drawn. Where's John's 9-up? Anyways, you can see how it says 9001, 9002, 9003. Basically, I made this Brady Bunch style. Hey, David Brady Bunch, you could be 9001. This way lets me take in 9 SRT feeds as a receiver in vMix. So the way that this was built was each one of these is an individual SRT feed. So if somebody was to send me up a feed to this one, if somebody has, let me give you that address.
Are those mapped directly to the port numbers in question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So this one's 44. Let me put this in chat. So we're going to go over, let me grab that so you guys can grab it. So that one is this vMix one. It is 44, copy address, paste into chat. And then the port on that one will be any of the ports. You can choose 9001 through 90 or 9010, I think is the last one. Let me double check what was the last one. Too many computers. Where's my, minimize that. vMix here. Nobody's sending in here. Somebody got an extra. Oh, that's loud. Okay, I killed the audio. So looks like Falls Church, Virginia. Who's that one?
That's me. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thanks, Sarah.
The audience down.
And then 9001, somebody just grabbed that one. I'm going to kill the audio on that. So again, we used SRT mini server as a receiver, and now we're using vMix as a receiver. vMix is $60 a month. So this isn't like out of control expensive, and then the machine that we're running this on is $1.50 an hour. So in terms of cost for what we're doing, this isn't crazy. Like it's not, I'm not saying go drop 10 grand on a Constellation, buy 5 Mac minis, buy 5 Sonnet racks, 5 SDI capture cards. You guys could do this for $60 plus $1.50 an hour.
You could even just pull it. So OBS also supports pulling in SRT and outputting it as NDI. You could also use VLC. Those are 2 options instead of 3.
VLC to push in SRT?
Yeah, you take VLC. VLC can open up the SRT, and then there should be an NDI output plugin for VLC as well.
So you're talking about pulling it back into something else. Yeah. So from here, I mean, there's so many things that can be done. You know, you can add graphics. Like we can put in, you know, a graphic over the top. And the crazy thing about remote is that, I don't know, Jonas, you've done this before, right? Where you can allow somebody else to switch via the control panel.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the more interesting things, and we're going to dive off topic for just a second, but it says that this is my website address, but that's not my website address because it's looking at my private IP address. If you were to go to the public IP address and type in, so again, that public IP address is that 44.238.182.72:8088, you'll probably hit.
Yeah, it's up.
It's up. So you should be able to switch. So like
yeah,
if you,
so what's missing right now there is you would need to set up the shortcuts because we don't have any shortcuts set up.
oh, okay.
What I could do is if you go to the second page, I can
go back there.
let's see. Here's what I see now on my screen. I could
you see the graphics.
Yeah. So if you set up shortcuts, we could switch using them.
So what he's saying is, but you can just switch the camera still, right? Let me cancel out of this for a second. So can you switch to like 9006? So that would be input. What is that? 9006. Yeah. So you're loading into preview right now.
Yeah.
So you guys understand what's going on? He's switching from that web interface, this show. And if I had shortcuts for graphics, he could be throwing in graphics in here. So again, this isn't crazy, like expensive. This is a $60 a month software. Oh, yeah. Somebody's audio is coming back in. Hold on a sec. Let me mute.
Probably best to just mute the whole soup.
Quick question though, because in the first instance, when we're hitting the SRT server direct using port, what was it, 8,000 or
5,000?
5,000, and it round robins and assigns people dynamically. With the static one, where I'm coming in on port 9001. What would happen if that port's occupied? If my connection's up and somebody else tries to hit it, would it
you'll get a like not available. From an engineering side, we SRT mini server does a lot of things that are convenient but out of spec.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So what it does basically is as soon as it sees one connection coming in on that port, it opens up a socket for that and then recreates that socket and does some networking magic in the background to make that all work. In 99% of the use cases, you probably will either have a different stream ID or a different port for the different ones.
So from a security perspective, you would probably want to do those static mappings one-to-one, assign them out.
Yeah. So from a security standpoint, there are three things that you would do. You would either limit which IPs are even allowed to hit their public IP address. So you would set up a networking in front of that through firewalls. You keep your port secure. You use a stream ID. That's absurd. Keep in mind the stream ID still needs to be URL encodable.
Sure.
So the stream ID needs to be URL encoded. Or depending on which tool you use, they might URL encode it for you. And the third thing is you can use a passphrase through the encryption. And at that point, everything is totally encrypted. So there is a bunch of things that you can leverage to make SRT more secure from like a no one gets to send aspect. One of the good things with SRT is also if you use something like SRT Gateway Server, we have a lot of visibility into it. Depending on how good your encoder is, they share more or less information with us. So for me as a remote encode engineer, often what it is like I can see how much bandwidth the whole path has. So I can tell you, oh yeah, you're on like 100 Mbit upload line, or you're on a 30 Mbit So I can remotely see all those parameters. And if Guy wants, we can go into, I pulled up the SRT cookbook with the SRT config calculator that you can use to generate those SRT URLs, because there's a whole science to how much round trip time to use and all that.
Yeah, you could fine tune this stuff and really get your latency dialed in. I mean, it's incredible once you get digging in. I mean, today we're going to explore some of the advanced things, but really this one's just about, can you get something up? How's it look? Is it working? So let me go back to let you guys see in what you're pushing up. So this is the SRT mini server one, and again, because of the IP address thing, I can't show you some of the stuff that we just talked about the stream IDs, because I could make it so that it is more secure, and then everybody I'd have to copy and paste the stream ID, and each of you would have a unique, port stream ID, and then we could make it super secure. And then I could show you how we could lock it down, as Jonas was saying, in our security groups. We could basically say, ignore anybody except for from this particular range of IPs or this particular address. We're pretty wide open. When Jonas set up this instance for me, he made this one be a dynamic IP as well. So this IP will be thrown away after this session anyway. So that's why I'm not too concerned about it. But let's jump over to the vMix one again. Any questions on the vMix side or on the SRT mini server or OBS side of things?
I have a question, Guy.
Yeah.
Once you're into the SRT mini server, you got the feeds into the mini server. How do you get them out, or where do you send them? Do you send them somewhere else, or what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in this instance, we have man, everything I gotta hide. Hold on. It just depends on what you want to do. So if we open up NDI launcher, so this is what it looks like with NDI 5.5. You'll see that we have some apps, and one of them's Studio Monitor. So what SRT mini server did was it basically created all of these. So I can go to 1 and I can see 1. I can go to 2 and I can see 2. So now all these feeds are NDI feeds that I can take into Wirecast or OBS again, layer in my graphics, layer in my 2-up. So does that start to make more sense? These are all sources that I can grab and then push them out NDI, and then from there build a show and then push it out to YouTube or Vimeo, and we could do that as well.
Can you take the NDI out of the cloud, bring it down to a decoder, and then run it through an ATEM or something
absolutely.
like that?
Yeah, we could do that right now. In fact, so this machine, this is another machine. So this one has a different IP address. This one's ending. Yeah, so I'm running NDI bridge. And what this is doing, let me go ahead and copy all this information. And I'm going to paste this in chat. Sorry about the barking dog. He's like, you should be walking me right now. And instead you're teaching people how to throw a video around in bits in the cloud. So this is it. For anybody who wants to use bridge, you would go into join mode and you would enter in that IP address, that port number, and then there's the encryption key. And now all these feeds that you guys just sent up, they're coming back down to you, and you can build your own super source. So this is the power of the cloud, is like, we're all over the world. We're sending up feeds. We're adding graphics. We're building super sources, and then we're pushing it back down or building different shows. So it could be a bilingual, like different shows could have different people doing captioning. There's all kinds of possibilities. The important thing that I want to get across today is that it doesn't have to be super expensive. Like NDI Tools is free. vMix is $60 a month. And you could probably do some of this stuff with even Livestream Studio. So like if I open up Livestream Studio on this machine, it's already running. Can't run a separate. Okay, actually it's already running. So this is Livestream Studio. So I'm going to grab number 4 and I'll cut that over. So I've added a graphic. Oh, what happened to number 4? Okay. So I've added a graphic to this, And I'm going to go into these settings, and I'm going to make sure I'm pushing out NDI. So this is Livestream Studio, NDI input, add graphic, kick out program. And now I can stream. So in fact, I'll go ahead and go live with this. And I'll paste this. Oh my gosh, my dog's going crazy. One minute. Jonas, you want to fill in for me for a sec?
So I'm gonna show.
UPS truck showed up at Guy's house.
So there's the thing called the SRT calculator, and a lot of us engineering guys, we have our own formulas and how you do stuff, but this is a good starting point. And I'll just go quickly through what all of the important ones in. If you don't know what something is, just don't touch it. Basically, what we can say is, hey, I want to transmit like a 5 Mbit stream. So let's put us here. And then the round trip time is how long does it take for a packet to leave my PC, hit whatever is the receiver, and go back to me. So let's say I am in a really bad spot. I have horrible LTE and I need to send across the world. We're at, let's say, 250 milliseconds. And this will determine our latency. So now the interesting thing is, let's look at our loss. The SRT, you normally should do, the latency should be at least twice the round trip time. But as we increase how many packets we lose, you will see how the latency also increases. So like at around 10% packet loss, we should really go to over 1,250 milliseconds. And then final loss also is how much of those lost packets can we recover and how much will always be lost. So if I get this up, we can tune that. The rest is not that important if you don't know what you're doing, but then you can also input the domain on port and select if you're listener or caller. Caller is always the one that is going to somewhere. That doesn't mean that that needs to send or receive video. You can also receive video when you're the caller. All it means is the listener needs to have a public IP address, and that is being inputted. So right now, Guy is the listener, and we all are the caller, and we call to him. But if Guy would open up vMix and like share his multi-view as a listener as well, we could also still call to Guy and get it. And then you get the result. And if anyone cares for the math that's behind this is the math that's behind something like that. And then, but this is a really cool website. It's worth it looking at. It's called the SRT Cookbook. Has a lot of interesting facts about the stats. So if we now also look like at protocol overhead, which is an interesting thing that SRT has that RTMP doesn't have. So if you send the 5 Mbit stream with SRT, we need a little bit more bandwidth to recover from packet loss. So if, let's say, we have nothing, you see we almost have no overhead, just because there is not that much more that we need. At 1 Mbit, we do have a little bit of overhead depending on, just because there are some acknowledgement packets. But if we go like at 5% packet loss, you see we get quite the overhead. And that's also one of the things that most people overlook if you use SRT. Most people run it at 25% overhead. So a 5 Mbit stream gets 25% on top. So you really should need like 6.5 is what your SRT feed will need. So always keep that in mind as well. Because I've seen a lot of people trip up. They're like, oh, I have a 5 Mbit upload. Let's do a 4 Mbit stream. And it terribly fails because they forgot that there is always this overhead with SRT that helps us do all the reliability and recovery and all that.
Can you paste that in the chat, that link?
Will do.
Part of the concept of SRT that it creates that video reliability and sort of aggregation of packets with additional latency time. So as you increase latency, that quality and reliability stabilized?
So SRT itself doesn't care at all about your video. SRT basically is just a tunnel that transfers packets, UDP packets. So what we are all talking about is sending an MPEG TS stream over SRT from A to B, which then has the video in it. The quality doesn't raise with more latency, but what it does basically is like it has a way of the sender and the receiver both have a buffer where they keep packets that they sent and received. And then the receiver is like, hey, you sent me packet 10 and 12. What about packet 11? I really would like a packet 11. Could you send me a packet 11? And then the sender still has that in its buffer and sends it over again. That's some of the really basic concepts of SRT. There's congestion control and like deciding when a packet is too late and all that. But that's the really basic idea. And then also the encryption of the UDP packets.
And so the way to resolve those lost packets could potentially be changing the what setting? Latency or something else?
Yeah, so it depends why you lose the packets. Let's say we have a 10% packet loss. We need to calculate then if it's a 5 Mbit stream and we lose 10% of the packets, to recover those 5%, we will need to resend those. And then you also like, then it gets into complex math because from the 10% that we send again, we'll lose another 10% that we need to retransmit. Most SRT retransmit 3 times. So that's why we have calculators like this and common knowledge. If you have done a couple SRT transmits, you'll know, yeah, let's play a little more safe with this one.
Thank you.
Could you guys explain real quickly how tough it is to stream up an instance in the cloud with AWS? What do you got to do that?
It's not that hard. If you need a GPU instance, that's a little more of a waiting game. But as far as just a regular machine like a C5, those are readily available. It's just give them your credit card and you can have it today. Man, I sound like a used car salesman. And you can have it today. Get your AWS.
What do you do for the apps? Do you build an image or something and copy it onto it, or?
We do, because we're nerds and we have a way of grabbing the installers, and we will actually create an instance where it installs vMix, it installs our tools, NDI, and so it's grabbing the latest build from a URL on the manufacturer side or the developer site. But for you, it's just Windows. You know, this is just a Windows computer. Like you fire it up and it's just Windows. It's blank. Like there's Internet Explorer on there. So if you want Google Chrome, you got to install Google Chrome. Actually, before you do that, there is a kind of a gotcha. They do make some security. Like it's a Windows server machine. It's not a regular Windows 10 or Windows 11 machine. It's a Windows server machine. So it does start out with some crazy internet security that you kind of want to turn off to at least be able to download Chrome.
If you want to know how to do that, I just posted the 2 links. One of them is all the shows that we did on AWS. We did a full walkthrough. And then the second is a video of Tucker building an instance in about, I think, 30 minutes or something.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
I don't see anybody grabbing the NDI bridge stuff. Let me share this screen again. Back to where we were. And sorry, my dogs are going crazy. There's another dog at the dog park next door. So this is a live stream studio, and I pushed out a stream. I'll put it in the chat. You guys can click on that, and you can see that whoever was sending me this boat image, we've added a title on it, and now we're pushing it back out, and it's going out live stream in 4K. Well, that's not a 4K. Unless somebody is sending me a 4K image. I'm not sure if this one was a 4K, but anyways, I'm pushing it out 4K. The thing is that we could build whatever we wanted to here. This is a 4K app. And so this show, you can go, and same with vMix or OBS, you can go in there and change the project format to whatever you want it to be. So get out of that. And then we were talking about NDI Bridge, which is here.
Now, before you get too far away from that, Guy, I'm seeing on my view of this about 12 to 18 frames a second. Is that?
Yeah, screen share. Yeah, because we're just screen sharing. I'm not there. I could do this through Zoom
Do
so you
you-
guys can get a
You
cleaner
want to
one.
send me an SRT to one of my WebRTC servers, and we'll watch it there.
Sure. So let's go over here. Let's go back to, that was the Teradici instance, which is this one. And then we're going to, so now we're going to push it back to Jonas. So we're going to go over here to our external, and there's a little SRT button here. And I'm going to build, actually here, output NDI SRT settings, and I'm going to send him this 9 build that we made. So it takes a second for it to come on. It'll come on here in just a sec. There it is. And now I can go in here and say, I want, let's say output 2 to send to Jonas. So I'm going to enable an SRT. And what am I, the caller?
Yeah, I just sent you all the details over Discord.
I don't want to open up my disk. Okay, hold on. I can open it on another machine.
Because if you want to send it to me, I do need you to use a stream ID.
Okay.
It's quite long.
Oh, gotcha. So copy and paste this first one. Let's see here.
Yeah, the first one is just the URL.
Did it? All right. I guess I will have to do it this way. All right. I'm going to pause the screen share for just a sec while I open up Discord and move this over to here. Jump over to here, type in Discord, and then grab Jonas's stuff. Come on, Discord. All right, here we go. So I can resume the share. Jump over. So Jonas sent me this long URL that I'm going to go over to here. I'm going to type in the host name, paste that big long thing, and then wait. So then the port number is the 999.
Yeah, I passed it out in the couple other messages, so you don't need to use the whole thing as host name. Because I sent you the whole SRT string, and normally you need to pass it out. So the
gotcha.
15 dot is the host name.
Okay, gotcha. So this is the host name. I gotcha. So this, and you don't care if this is IP address is shown?
Yeah.
Well, too late. And then the stream ID is...
Stream ID is everything starting at SRT.
Gotcha. All right. Everything in just a 4 meg. Now can you do HEVC or 8 meg? No HEVC, just...
Yeah, that is fine.
Yeah,
and then
like
lower
10.
the latency to like 200 milliseconds.
Okay, so
And you might want to do like a 4 Mbit stream, so we don't use that much bandwidth from yours into mine.
Okay, H.264, 4 megabits. Let's go to this one here. Okay. So you'll see a little SRT pop up here in the top right corner. So that means I'm sending SRT. And there's also a little dial. I don't know if you guys can see this down. It looks like a little bar graph down at the bottom, and it'll tell you what's going on with your machine. So you can see the inputs and the outputs of...
Go to SRT, we should now see that you're sending it and not getting it yet.
Make sure I did that right. So I'll double check it. So again, we'll go here, output NDI, SRT settings. Oh, was I sending? Let me double check that was program. I think I forgot to change.
Here, I have it. So
is it full program or is it multi? Yeah, I think I was sending
yeah,
you
this is what I get.
Hold on, let me jump back.
I'm getting the multi-view.
Yeah, let me give you program output. There you go. So we're using vMix as a sender now, and it's sending everything to Germany. Is that what we're? This is
this is one of our. So what this is a multi-viewer that takes in the SRT, transcodes it into WebRTC into my browser, and you can compare the latency. It's pretty fast.
Oh, I Oh yeah, you can compare your latency. So if somebody can snap their fingers on that, and
I
give us some
also
feedback.
put up, so this OBS is sending to Guy, and then Guy is sending to me. So if you compare those two numbers,
Oh
you
wow,
see
yeah.
how much encrypt we do.
So my server is in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. So he's sending from Germany to Oregon and then back, and that's the latency. So that's the power of this. Is, I mean, it's fast enough that you can be doing, calling a show and calling graphics and calling replay and all of that. And again, to answer John's question again, we could be in NDI bridge pulling all this back down at that kind of latency. So we can pull it back down as NDI or back as SRT. With the SRT gateway that he was talking about, the high vision SRT gateway, that's just basically a cloud instance that you could rent. So it's software that you're installing in AWS, or it's already pre-built. Actually, you just say, I want one of those. It's kind of like going to McDonald's and you just say, hey, I want the number 3. You get a high vision gateway. You put in the admin code, and then you say, this is the IP address I want coming in, and this is where I want it to go to. So it's basically an in and out. And with David Brady stuff, SRT gateway can help him hop through some of those corporate firewalls too. So that's another benefit of SRT, is that you could traverse firewalls using certain methods. Oh yeah, there's Josh now doing. So Josh is connected. Josh, you want to tell us what you got going on?
Yeah, so I connected to the NDI bridge. I joined Guy's network. I did need a unique bridge name, so I took 03 on the bridge. So I have access to all of his NDI feeds. He has his SRT connected through. Is that your mini SRT server, Guy?
Yeah, so SRT mini server is running. You guys are feeding us. And then NDI bridge is running on another instance, and so there's two instances, and Josh is grabbing all the NDI feeds, which are actually then they're not NDI anymore. They're being transcoded in the cloud to push them back down. So if these were full NDI, so we could control this. We can control the level. So how does it look to you? Well, you've sized them down, so it probably doesn't matter. But if these were bigger feeds, we can actually control in NDI bridge the amount of data that we're letting leak back out. So we can adjust the quality all the way up to 4K. Like we can make big files if we wanted to. And then Josh, did you have to open up any ports on your router?
No.
No. Interesting. Can't remember if it's on my side that I had to open it up for you to be able to attach to.
Yeah, it's similar to how SRT works with caller sender. So one of them needs to have a public IP address for the other one to latch onto.
So here, for those of you interested, and again, I'm not expecting you guys to do all this in a day. It's just this is a high level overview of what we got going on. So this computer is almost next to the other one. If you could imagine a data center, we have one machine that's running SRT mini server. We have another one that I would call the SRT mini server a contribution machine, and then this one could be a distribution machine. So it's pushing back out. We're hosting NDI files. So I could see that there's 2 people connected. I'm sending 18 megabits. But here's where I was talking about those encoder settings. I can actually control. So if I wanted Josh's pictures to look better, I could just grab onto this and bring it up to, 16 megabit at 1080. And now we'll see this number start to rise. And I can do this on the fly. It'll change. It'll do it in real time. And if I wanted to save, if he had, actually, Josh, do you have a fast machine, right, Josh? You're right. You got HEVC on there?
Yeah.
Let me just see if I can break it real quick. So I'm going to stop it real quick, and then I'm going to go back in here and make sure that I have HEVC on this machine. I do. So compatibility check lets me see if my machine's capable of doing this. And if any of you run into this problem where you can't do this, I have a way of making this work. There's some PowerShell stuff that you got to do to get HEVC to work in the cloud. But once I've set that up, I can control, where's the codec? I thought,
It's probably still powering down.
oh, it's not stopped. Yeah. So I'm stopping the bridge. So watch Josh's stuff break. Idle, stopping the bridge. There. Now I can go back here and I could change this. We'll see if it works. HEVC. So HEVC is half the bandwidth at the same quality. So now I could send that same, all that same stuff, and it should be, if it works. I haven't gotten this to work very smoothly, but maybe things have changed in 5.5. This is all new to me as well. Are you, Josh, you're running 5.5? NDI 5.5?
I'm not actually.
Okay, let's see what happens. Do your feeds pick
let's
back
test
up?
it.
Yeah, it looks like I see the dude moving. Well, is he moving? Yep.
Yeah, you're sending about 20 Mbits. That's one of the cool things by having the cloud manage all that and then send it down to you. We all know that most of us have issues with getting a great upload speed. The cloud doesn't have that issue, and all Josh needs is about 20 to 30 Mbits in download speed, which is also a great tool.
And again, just to show you this dashboard in the cloud, this is the back end of my environment. I'm running in. You can see this is running in Oregon. I'm running 3 machines. So the first machine was our SRT mini server. The second one was NDI Bridge, and this third one was vMix on a different machine, just so you guys could see what it looked like to send a vMix instead of sending to SRT mini server. So 3 machines, one's an 8x large, one's a 4x large, and another one's an 8x large. Typically, I would use one of these machines to run Zoom rooms, and that would be my contribution machine, and then I would use vMix, and vMix would pick up all those as NDI. So this is how we build these things out, not using SRT. We can also just use Zoom as a contribution. So today we talked about using SRT, but you can also use WebRTC with Zoom, or you could use something like Stream Voodoo or Video.Ninja, which is, I think, no, Tony's not using it anymore. Tony was using it for his show, but he's gone back to using Zoom rooms. And then Jonas, if you guys ever need like hardcore help, Jonas is available. He does this stuff for a living. I do it for fun. So again, I have nothing to sell you here. This is just pure like, hey, here's what I've figured out and what I learned. There's, this OBS is free, NDI Tools is free. AWS, you pay by the minute, or yeah, it's by the minute. It used to be by the hour. It's so cool now that it's by the minute, because now you don't have to, when you
actually it's by the second after the first minute.
Second after, okay. Well, it used to be that if I did a restart on something, it was like, oh my gosh, they just won $1. It's like, and if I had to do 3 restarts on something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just racked up money reinstalling software. Because some of these things you got to keep up to date. You want to. Well, actually, some of my stuff, I just leave it once it's working, just leave it and not mess with it. So I still have some stuff that's running NDI 4.5 because it's just so stable. And so this is my opportunity to break stuff, because what we use this for is we do webinars for our One Button Studio, and this is our environment that we use to produce that show. So I'm just giving you guys kind of insight as to what we use. Do you guys have any more questions on OBS? Or
Guy, when you said you just leave it, so you spin up the machine, you load up all the software, you turn the machine off, then you can turn it on and you still have the software?
Mm-hmm.
That's how that works?
Exactly. Yeah. So these are just computers. And so like I have 11 in this environment. So let's see. So these are the instances that are running. If I go to the dashboard and I say, here's some of my other instances, I have like this high vision gateway. Here's some of the other stuff that's not running right now. And this is just Oregon. So I also have some in other environments as well. I have different VPCs. So these are, again, all machines. Some of them are really small. Like there's some that are free. Like I've been running NDI Bridge on a T2 Micro just for kicks, free. Or I can't remember. Is that one completely free, Jonas? I think
there's some free stuff for the first instance, but you probably are still paying for it.
Yeah, and if you go to launch instance, you can see what I'm talking about as far as there's a whole menu of computers that you can get that have different. So you'd say like, I want one instance. And again, this is just a Windows server machine, and it asks you what kind of machine do you want. Do you want a Linux machine, Ubuntu, Windows? So if we say Windows, and then it says like, here's a base machine, and this one's a free tier, so it costs $0. Like you can go fire this up and play for free, but the computer's going to be really pokey. It doesn't feel like the one I just showed you. The G4DN 8X is super snappy, and I'm running it in well, this one's running in remote desktop. So you've seen me use 3 different ways of connecting too. So this machine's connected via Microsoft Remote Desktop. This other machine here is connected via Teradici. You can see it says anywhere PC OIP client, and the other one is connected via nice DCV. So I'm actually using 3 machines running 3 different ways of connecting. So does that make sense?
And the machine you're physically in front of is a what? That's a
laptop, just a little gamer 2-year-old Dell or Razer laptop.
So it's just a dumb terminal at this point.
Yeah. Yep.
With what's your bandwidth in and out? You're on fiber? Or
1,000 in and 50 up.
You probably like could do it with 15 down.
Okay, so I might be really stupid. So you build your instance, and then you keep the instance. You pay for it while you're using it. You turn it off.
You turn it off. So when I'm done,
Okay,
I just hit shut down, and you'll see it spin down. So
but you don't have to rebuild it when you turn it on the next time.
No.
Oh, that's what I was missing.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, so it's your machine, and in fact, you can attach bigger storage, and you can even resize a machine. So, like if I was running this this instance as my contribution machine that we saw that was a 4X, and I wanted to change it to an 8X, it's not like a regular computer. Well, I guess it is like a regular computer. I could change this instance that's a 4X into an 8X. vMix might get a little confused and ask you to re-put in your key because it goes, your hardware has changed. But that's the other crazy part of the cloud is you can size up machines and you can take away storage and you can add storage. That's the craziest part of all this is that
you don't lose your apps and you don't lose all your settings.
No, it's just you're borrowing somebody else's computer in the cloud. Yeah.
That's a whole different game changer for me.
Well,
I had the whole thing mixed up.
One thing to keep in mind is they will charge you for the whole size of your drive. And they don't care how much of it is used, the potential drive. So if you say I want up to 1 terabyte drive, they'll charge you for the full terabyte, not only for the 30 gigs you're using. So what I would say, like, create a really small Windows drive, 30, 40 gigs. And then if you need more, you can add an additional drive that you then can remove.
Is it easier to size up than to size down?
It's the same.
You can't size down.
Oh, you can't size down.
You can, but with over a year of working on this, there wasn't one single time where that was feasible because it's just so much hassle.
Yeah, David, could you come help me empty my garage, please? That's my attic, my basement.
Sure. Bring a can of gasoline and a match.
Nothing a good fire wouldn't solve. You're right.
What do they charge for the disk space?
It depends on the disk. There's different types of disks, but most of it's SSD, and so there's different kind. There's S3 buckets, which is like public for, like if you wanted to build like a web server, and then there's attached storage that you could have just for like editing. Let's say you wanted to run DaVinci Resolve in the cloud, you would get an SSD that's attached to yours, and there's rates that you can look up online. It's not crazy. I mean, but ideally you size it back down when you're done with it. So because like Jonas was saying, if you say I want a 1 terabyte drive, even if there's only 1 kilobit on there, you're paying for the full 1 terabyte. So, and then you are paying for ingest and egress, but not side to side. So if you have two, like when I'm sharing SRT mini server to NDI bridge or Zoom or any of these things side to side, there's no inner
do need
charges.
To be careful of doing inter accessibility availability zone sometimes.
Yeah, if you're in the same availability zone. So basically an availability zone, it could be the same physical building, but sometimes they'll be like further away. So like I'm in 2A, 2B, and 2C. You do got to be careful if you cross the availability zones as to if you're doing a lot of it. And this is just a matter of setting up your stuff correctly the first time, that you're not putting stuff in weird places and then trying to share them. And so you do want to watch your cost explorer and see, am I getting hit with some strange fees? So my bills are about $300 to $400 a month, depending on how many things we do. So just to kind of give you an idea.
Can you create a fixed reserved instance, so it's a fixed cost per month, so you don't have to worry about it changing?
Yes. It will cost you a lot of money, but you can create an instance that runs 24/7, or you can reserve an instance, which is the same cost as running a 24/7. But
reserve gets you like 33% discount minimum for reserved.
If you also make a 1-year commitment.
Yeah, 1 or 3 year commitment. So the more you reserve, in fact, I mean, I'd love to at one point, if we're using this stuff enough, to just reserve an instance, because the cost at some point, weighs the same. And there's another thing called spot instances, where if you're just wanting to mess around, you can get bumped within 10 minutes. So they'll give you 10 minutes notice. So like if you're just batch encoding some After Effects files, or you got some photogrammetry crazy thing, you can just batch process, but on a spot instance, and then it'll spool down maybe in the middle of the night. But ideally, you're working on a project that you don't lose anything. It's just like renders to a certain point, but then you can just spin something back up and pick it back up. But
you can also use their light sale service, which is a fixed price.
Light sales? I haven't used that.
Yeah, light sale is basically cheaper servers that don't have all the nice things that EC2 has.
Yeah, they were competing with Linode.
Yeah, and then there is, if you want to compare prices, there is Google Cloud and Azure, which is kind of the same thing. I've got instances on both of those as well that are GPU instances, and the cost is about the same. I haven't noticed like radically different costs, but it just depends on what you need. And if you do plan on doing this stuff and you need GPU instances, I would suggest provisioning them more sooner than later, because you can ask for them and sometimes it takes weeks to get them. It may not be as bad now with the cryptocurrency thing going down, but it was really painful a couple months ago. Yeah. It would take weeks to get one.
Is the Azure solid, or is it kind of goofy?
It's just different. It's just a different way of doing things. I got way further at Google Cloud than I did with Azure. It's the same type of thing, though. You're just saying, I want this kind of instance. But as far as getting an NDI flowing, it was easy for me to do in Google Cloud. I never got NDI flowing in Azure. I just use it like a business type machine. But it's the same type of thing. You're renting a computer in the cloud, and they all want to be competitive, so their fees are about the same. It's just a matter of backend and how you want it to look.
AWS, of course, is Amazon, and then Google is Alphabet, Google. And then Azure is Microsoft.
Yeah,
so those are the motherships. Relationally.
Yeah, but AWS smokes everybody by far. And just to give you an idea, like you're looking at this backend, and we're going a little over time. Sorry, we'll wrap it up here in a sec. This is the services list. If I go all services, look at all these. I mean, there's blockchain stuff, AR, VR, compute, containers, database. These are some of the things that they offer. There's like Internet of Things. And in these, you can see these different services. So for each one, like there's Media Convert, Media Connect. So you could just like send up an RTMP feed and send it sideways or to 5 different destinations. So these are all just services that AWS offers. And some of this stuff, this is how, if you go to Starbucks and swipe your credit card, some of that stuff goes up to one of these services, database services, one of these, relational database services. AWS runs so many things behind the scenes that you use every day.
And one interesting thing to note with AWS comparing different cloud providers is AWS also really invests into the media and entertainment industry. So they have the specific summits for us. They have like just following them on LinkedIn. There's like every day there's like a post where I'm like, that sounds amazing. I want to do that. Or they have a lot of tutorials like from, hey, this is how you build your own CDN to like, this is how you build your own live streaming solution that automatically captions something and provides that to like, here's how you create like a clip store and all that. And I did just open up calculator.aws, and a 50 gigabyte storage runs at about $5 per month as a GP3. And if
Hey,
it's,
Guy, I'm controlling your camera through
Yeah, I'm watching
NDI
you.
here.
That's pretty funny. So this is one of the other benefits of NDI Bridge is that you get full PTZ control. Yeah, you're on a PC, so if you use the keyboard, you can also just press left and right, and if you hold down Control, it'll slow it down left and right, and then you can use the So he's where are you? The Bay Area?
Hold on. Yep, I
You're
was
in-
just making sure my Zoom was unmuted here. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the Bay Area, and I'm in Washington, and you're controlling my camera in pretty much real time. Like the latency is super, super low. So he could be at a sporting event, picking up, it's like, hey, get the outfield. He could swing over, especially if he had those presets. That camera's pretty quick at hitting those presets. I don't know if I have it turned up all the way right now to go super fast, but yeah, that's my backyard. It's the farmer's field in my backyard.
Hold on.
Oh.
It's got out of control here.
Yeah.
Got some drywall there. Get back out.
But he could even, if he had an Xbox controller, he can have an Xbox controller. If he had a,
I'm just mousing around right now. I'm gonna let it go.
Okay. Anyways, you get the idea. The NDI Bridge isn't just about sharing the video and audio feed; it's sharing control and tally as well. Cool stuff. All right. Well, that's about all we got time for today. In fact, we went over a little bit. Unless there's one last question. One last question?
Super helpful, Guy. Thanks.
Super cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yep, good stuff.
Cool. Glad to be able to share it. All right. I will close up the room and catch you all later.